Не учим, а практикуем. Играем в английский от души. Свободный и мощный тренажер Aakash English бот в Telegram.
Дождь шел всю ночь.
It rained all that night.
Но в пещере все было теплым и сухим.
But in the cave everything was warm and dry.
И мало-помалу я утратил свой страх.
And little by little I lost my fear.
Землетрясение и ураган причинили большой ущерб моему замку.
The earthquake and the hurricane had done great damage to my castle.
Мне пришлось усиленно трудиться много дней.
I had to work hard for many days.
Чтобы привести все в порядок.
To put things to rights again.
Я был уже на острове около 10 месяцев.
I had now been on the island about 10 months.
За все это время я видел только малую часть его.
In all that time I had seen only a small part of it.
Одним утром я пустился с ружьем на плече на длительную прогулку.
One morning I set out with my gun on my shoulder for a long walk.
Я прошел вверх вдоль маленькой реки.
I went up the little river.
Где я впервые причаливал с моими плотами.
Where I had first landed with my rafts.
Я обнаружил, что это была очень короткая река.
I found that it was a very short river.
Через примерно 2 мили
After about 2 miles.
вода не приливала выше.
The tide did not flow any higher.
И над этим местом поток был только маленьким ручьем пресной воды.
And above that, the stream was only a little brook of fresh water.
Вдоль ручья были красивые луга.
Along the brook there were pleasant meadows.
Покрытые высокой травой.
Covered with high grass.
В более сухих частях этих лугов
In the drier parts of these meadows,
нашел табак, растущий диким.
I found tobacco growing wild.
Я искал корни какого-либо растения, которое индейцы используют вместо хлеба.
I looked for the roots of a plant which the Indians use instead of bread.
Не мог найти ни одного.
But could find none.
Однако в одном месте
In one place, however,
Я увидел много высоких растений сахарного тростника.
I saw many tall sugar canes.
И несколько красиво выглядящих растений вида, который был незнаком мне.
And some fair-looking plants of a kind that was strange to me.
Пока я шел обратно в мой замок, я думал, как бы мне узнать что-то полезное о многих объектах, которые я видел.
As I went back to my castle, I wondered how I could learn something useful about the many objects I had seen.
Но я никогда много не думал о подобных вещах.
But I had never taken much thought about such things.
И теперь я имел лишь маленький шанс узнать.
And now I had but little chance to learn.
На следующий день я пошел по тому же пути, но намного дальше.
the next day I went up the same way, but much farther.
За лугами я пришел к красивым лесам.
Beyond the meadows I came to some beautiful woods.
Здесь я нашел несколько различных видов фруктов.
Here I found several different kinds of fruits.
Здесь были виноградные лозы, покрывающие деревья.
There were grapevines covering the trees.
И с них свисали огромные грозди зрелого винограда.
And huge clusters of ripe grapes were hanging from them.
Я был очень рад этому.
I was very glad of this.
Я решил прийти в другой день.
I made up my mind to come another day.
Я собрал некоторое количество этого плода
and gather some of this fruit.
Я подумал, что высушу виноград на солнце.
I would dry the grapes in the sun.
И получу изюм.
And have some raisins.
Настала ночь.
Night came on.
Пока я все еще был в лесу.
While I was still in the woods.
И не мог сделать ничего лучше, как остаться там до утра.
And I could not do better than stay there till morning.
Поэтому я залез на дерево и поспал там очень хорошо.
So I climbed into a tree and slept there quite well.
Это была первая ночь, которую я провел вне дома.
It was the first night that I had spent away from home.
На следующий день я прошел по лесу почти 4 мили.
The next day I went on through the woods for nearly 4 miles.
Наконец я пришел к открытому пространству, где земля клонилась к западу.
At last I came to an open space where the land sloped to the west.
Местность была такой свежей и зеленой, что выглядела как большой сад.
The country was so fresh and green that it looked like a big garden.
Я спустился в приятную долину.
I went down into a pleasant valley,
Где было много прекрасных деревьев.
Where there were many beautiful trees.
Там я обнаружил апельсины, лимоны и лаймы.
There I found oranges, lemons and limes.
Помимо множества винограда.
besides many grapes.
Я нагрузил себя фруктами и отправился домой.
I loaded myself with fruit and started homeward.
Я должен вернуться снова и принести мешок.
I must come again and bring a sack.
Только через 3 дня я достиг моего замка.
It was 3 days before I reached my castle.
К тому времени плоды потеряли весь свой вкус.
By that time the fruit had lost all its flavor.
На следующий день я вернулся в ту же самую долину.
The next day I went back to the same valley.
Я нес 2 маленьких мешка, чтобы принести домой мой урожай.
I carried 2 small sacks to bring home my harvest.
Но я обнаружил многие лозы сорванными.
But I found many of the grapevines torn down.
Плоды были разбросаны по земле.
The fruit was scattered on the ground.
Некоторые были съедены.
Some had been eaten.
Некоторые были растоптаны на куски.
Some had been trodden to pieces.
Дикое животное побывало там.
A wild animal had been there.
Возможно, коза.
Perhaps it was a goat.
Возможно, это было какое-то животное побольше.
Perhaps it was a larger beast.
Возможно, ущерб нанесли несколько животных.
Perhaps several animals had done the mischief.
This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, visit LibriVox.org. Robinson Crusoe Written Anew for Children by James Baldwin. Chapter 18. I Explore My Island. It rained all that night. But in the cave everything was warm and dry, and little by little I lost my fear. The earthquake and the hurricane had done great damage to my castle. I had to work hard for many days to put things to rights again. I had now been on the island about 10 months. In all that time, I had seen only a small part of it. One morning I set out with my gun on my shoulder for a long walk. I went up the little river where I had first landed with my rafts. I found that it was a very short river. After about 2 miles, the tide did not flow any higher, and above that, the stream was only a little brook of fresh water. Along the brook there were pleasant meadows covered with high grass. In the drier parts of these meadows I found tobacco growing wild. I looked for the roots of a plant which the Indians use instead of bread, but could find none. In one place, however, I saw many tall sugar canes and some fair-looking plants of a kind that was strange to me. As I went back to my castle, I wondered how I could learn something useful about the many objects I had seen. But I had never taken much thought about such things, and now I had but little chance to learn. The next day I went up the same way, but much farther. Beyond the meadows I came to some beautiful woods. Here I found several kinds of fruits. There were grapevines covering the trees, and huge clusters of ripe grapes were hanging from them. I was very glad of this. I made up my mind to come another day and gather some of this fruit. I would dry the grapes in the sun and have some raisins. Night came on while I was still in the woods, and I could not do better than stay there till morning. So I climbed into a tree and slept there quite well. It was the first night that I had spent away from home. The next day, I went on through the woods for nearly 4 miles. At last I came to an open space where the land sloped to the west. The country was so fresh and green that it looked like a big garden. I went down into a pleasant valley where there were many beautiful trees. There I found oranges, lemons, limes, and citrons, besides many grapes. I loaded myself with fruit and started homeward. I must come again and bring a sack, I said. It was 3 days before I reached my castle. By that time, the fruit had lost all its flavor. The next day I went back to the same valley. I carried 2 small sacks to bring home my harvest. But I found many of the grapevines torn down. The fruit was scattered on the ground. Some had been eaten. Some had been trodden to pieces. A wild animal had been there. Perhaps it was a goat. Perhaps it was a larger beast. Perhaps several animals had done the mischief.